Excellent. Our next speaker is Mr. David Wilson. He is the Chief Executive Officer of an employee benefit consulting firm, Wilson Partners. He's the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Asset Health, the leader in health-centered patient engagement and knowledge management. He is also the founder for Health and Productivity, dedicated to improved community health. He has a passion for developing a Catholic health plan that can survive in the commercial marketplace and enable Catholic institutions to survive. Please welcome Mr. David Wilson.
Does someone want to give me direction on how you move the slides forward? How do you do that? Okay, yeah. Oops. Okay. Well, thank you very much. These are two acts that are very hard to follow, but I will do my very best to do so. The title of my talk is Life is the Gift of God, Love, Existence, Responsibility, a discussion of best practice, Christ-centered health care and caring. And I'm going to immediately turn this over to a very good friend of mine, John Bonema, to explain the relationship of Michelangelo's painting to the human mind.
Thank you, David. He asked me to give a real brief art history course. And we all know this image, the Sistine Chapel, and the creation of man. Adam is cut off there, but here's God creating man. Now that's the vision when you're in the Sistine Chapel, those that have been there. Many people go through here and just look at it as just a piece of art, a tourist attraction, something to buy a nice calendar from. But what we're really seeing here is Michelangelo was very clever, very intelligent, because in those days there wasn't a print industry, there wasn't media, there wasn't a lot in terms of teaching the faith. So people would come in here and would look at this painting, and much like all the churches in Rome, they're there to teach the faith. And you have to look at this from the perspective of what was occurring in Genesis. And at this point, God was saying, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. And notice the words of us and our. And it's the first reference that I'm aware of God talking about the Holy Trinity giving to man. The other thing is here is this is depicted as a physical creation, but actually it's not. It's a spiritual. And that spiritual creation is coming from the interior. And if you look at this carefully, and Michelangelo was brilliant with anatomy, the structure of this, in which God is encased in, looks very much like this, the human brain. And so what God is doing here is giving us his intelligence, his will and reason. With that intelligence comes his spirituality, the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And that's all being infused into man, into us. And that's what makes us so different than all of the rest of creation. And as a physician, when you look at this and you look at it this way, this is why what we do every day is such a privilege and such an honor, because we get to work with God's creation and what God's creation reflects.
John, thank you very much. So just from everyone's unique, right? Look around the tables, look at each other. All of you are different, unique. God loves each of you tremendously, but you all bring something different to the party. And one of the things that I want to try to do with this talk is try to pull together the various conversations that we've heard and all of the different enterprises that are going on, from Tim Van Dolen's work in Texas to John's work in Virginia to Sister's work in terms of fertility and the theology of the human body and how to care for the whole person of the woman. How do we magnify that? How do we bring that to the marketplace? How do we understand that the transaction of daily life is commerce? going to be successful, we have to think about how we not only do this in Austin, Texas, but how we start to build a business model to go to the next location and the next location. Yesterday we talked about at the conference, if each of us brought just 10 new people into the process next year for the next meeting, what can we do? Right? What can we do together? There's leaders here. The people that are here today are all leaders. But we all come from different experiences. I'm not a doctor, right? I'm not somebody running a healthcare system, but I'm a very important guy because I'm working with all the people thinking about where we're going and how everyone is actually going to get there. All right? So this is the call that I have. So a discussion of best practice Christ-centered healthcare and health caring. Christ-centered healthcare. You can't get to best practice healthcare without Christ at the center of it. To Chuck's talk, by the way, he was my boss's boss in those days, and we both had hair. Okay? So the big picture. Let me go on to the next slide here. See if I do this right. Okay. We're in the health age. Okay, you heard about the information age? The information age is data points. Okay, we move from data to information. 2, 2, 4. The 4, 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's information. Knowledge, right, goes from 2 plus 2 equaling 4 to 2 plus 2 always equaling 4. Education is always equals 4. Ooh, there's truth in the world. Wisdom, where's the truth come from? Okay, that's the continuum that we're looking at. That's flat. It's flat because it does not genetically deal with the love, the passion of the human being. The passion of the human being is in life, the health age. The health age is much more passionate than the information age because it starts to deal with issues that say, John's my doctor. I have a human relationship with my doctor. My wife is ill. I need to care for her. My child is ill. I need to care for him or her. The health age, from a human conduct socialization perspective, is much, much more powerful than the information age. And you know what the information age has done to us as a society and its future impact to us as well. One of the reflections of that is that today, employers are remodeling their minds relative to compensation. How do they reward you? The information age has impacted that. Today, information, knowledge, retained knowledge, active knowledge is reward. It's compensation. If I understand something, maybe I don't buy a house, I get upside down in it. Oh, that's part of my reward system. Is my part of my reward system health insurance, or is it health and well-being? Oh, I understand something. So this conversation begins with comprehension. And it begins with comprehension around the impact of the health age. The health age culture is 360 degrees, fourth dimensional in every aspect. So people say, geez, David, you're dealing with employers. You have 60,000 employees over here, and you're designing this program, and then you're going over here and you're talking to the bishops, and then you're going over here and you're talking to CEOs of healthcare systems. It's 360 degrees, fourth dimensional. What's the fourth dimension? Innovation and wisdom. Where's wisdom come from? You all know. Okay? When I talk in a secular environment, I can't say faith, hope, and charity lead to grace. I have to say comprehension, attitude, and substance lead to well-being. The CEO gets that. Okay? Same idea. It has to be a win-win-win situation. That has to ultimately occur and being grounded in the truth. Meaning it has to be a win for the patient. It has to be, hey, you're actually investing in my greater health and well-being, not just my illness care. It has to be a win for the doctor. And we need doctors to participate actively in that solution set. It has to be an active win for the health system. And it has to be an active win for the marketplace. And you have to put all those pieces together. And you have to have a strategy, and you have to know what that strategy is, and then you have to plot and plan and go. And it's a multi-year strategy. It's not a silo year after year strategy. There's no silver bullet in healthcare. Dave Wilson, Chuck Donovan, who's a very eloquent speaker, very bright guy. He doesn't have all the answers. Heritage Foundation doesn't have all the answers, do they, Chuck?
95% though.
Okay. There is a competitive advantage. There is a competitive advantage that we all have, and that is that we're going to work, and we're going to work, and we're going to outwork everybody else who says they want to be our competitor. We're just going to work. And why? Because we know that God gave us hands to work, to do His work, but fulfill our promise through work. All right? It's selfish to work. It's selfish to contribute. So that's what we're going to do. All right, the Christus Medicus Foundation mission. Come on. Technology and I are not friends, although I've got lots of systems development people that work for me. Right? I know how to do email. I have to have them come in and help me do everything else. Okay? In terms of the mission, I'm not going to, you guys all know it. You read it. The goal is advocacy, education, and enterprise. We have to be engaged in the enterprise process. Commerce is the transaction of daily life. Okay, what's happening here? That's not the end of my slide presentation, I guarantee you. All right, there's nothing else there. Okay, I'll just keep going and maybe we can get that fixed. Otherwise, I'm going to be having to go real fast. Central concepts. Only the individual God's creation loves. Institutions do not love. They're all blank, right?
Oh my. That's spot on.
Okay. I'm going to let somebody smarter than me fix this, and I'm going to keep on moving until they do. Only the individual God's creation loves. Institutions do not love. Health systems do not love. Only the individual does. Empower the individual patient-physician relationship. CMO, Chief Medical Officer, says to me, with 80 hospitals in their system, David, we really got to think about this. How do I empower the patient? How do I get rid of all these financial disincentives, distortions that take place within the process in which an individual receives health care? The CEO of a health system saying, CMO, Chief Medical Officer, is saying, how do we empower the individual patient-physician relationship to empower the patient, not the insurance company, not some other odd incentive. When I say the words PCP, primary care physician, to a population of patients, what do they immediately think about? PCP, primary care physician. Oh, HMO. You're going to have me go through a gatekeeper? Someone else is going to control my health care? No. ACO is empowered patient. It's my doctor. I get to choose my doctor, engage with my doctor. Okay? Commerce, the transaction of daily life. Financing. Do we think we have it? Oh, we do. Okay, I think we got to go back. We go. Well, All right, if we can get back to slide 5 is what we need to do. Okay, thank you. Okay, financing individual or shared responsibility. That's a question, and how do we do all of this? But there's both. A right is an active responsibility. I mentioned this yesterday very briefly. Every active right within a democracy, a free society, requires direct and active responsibility. It's an academic question when somebody says, is health care a right? You say, absolutely it's a right. Every right within a democracy, within a free society, requires your direct and active responsibility. Oh, you want to talk about government's role in a right? That's a whole different conversation. All right? So if health care is an active right, I have to take direct and active responsibility for my health and engage with my doctor and engage with my family in managing my health and well-being. Employer-selected community. This is a great economic global advantage that we actually have in the world, where employers combine with employees to actually work to engage them in their improved health and well-being. And no other society in the world today is that employer-employer relationship so engaged. That's a positive, not a negative. We've turned it into a negative. Now that doesn't mean we don't have to actually look at what we have to do for people that don't have the advantage of that employment relationship. And we need to address that fundamentally in the marketplace as well. But we do have to understand that the individual selects their community. The individual selects their community. So what's the role of the church in community to accomplish this goal? Right? So we have the bishop back here, Bishop Vasha. We have all kinds of Christ-centered communities in health care. But what's the governance of the church relative to that? Is there a bishop or a set of bishops that try to create vision around all of Christ-centered Catholic health care? What's our role in the pews to take care of each other within community? So that's an individual question. We select our communities. We go and work for employers that create community that can also address, obviously, the health care issue with us. Right of conscience. This is fundamental to the individual's existence. We've already talked about this and we won't go further. Win-win-win, we've talked about that. Let's go to the next slide. Come on, David. Okay. Total reward, I've mentioned this, is going to well-being. This is important to understand because this is where all employers are thinking, major employers. We work typically with the Fortune 1000, so we're setting where things are going. But going from total reward, you've all heard those expressions in the place of employment, to total well-being. What's at the center of the total well-being economic occasion or economic equation? Healthcare is the most intimate and passionate form of reward for productivity. Healthcare is the most passionate and intimate form of reward for productivity and the creation of wealth within society. Meaning what? Employees, the people that work for employers, will willingly give up all other forms of compensation in some portion to maintain their health care, and their health caring at a level they desire it to be. Does anybody question that? The UAW has given up their young, they've given up all kinds of negotiations to keep health care where they want it to be. Employers reduce wages to absorb health care cost increases each year, and the employees are asked to contribute more to the health care plan, and they willingly do it. Health care is the most intimate and passionate form of reward for productivity. When you understand that, employer, we can actually lower the total cost of labor, increase productivity when you invest more here proportionately. When you invest in people as an asset rather than managing health care as an expense. When you create an investment in well-being rather than just the cost of illness. All right? So, What we're doing really is we're building one culture at a time in the marketplace. If you talk to a CEO, you say, CEO, Gene, CEO, you own culture. And he says, you're right, David, I own culture. How do I build a culture of engaged individuals who are actively involved in the management of their health and well-being? How do I do that? Comprehension, attitude, and substance. The parallel I've also put in here in this slide because we have a faith-filled group here, faith, hope, and charity. The other reward elements outside of that. This builds culture. The biggest issue here is comprehension. Comprehension's the parallel to faith. Who am I? What am I? How am I thinking about everything that I receive into this cranium is processed through my faith, my worldview. If I want to get somebody actively involved in their health and well-being, I need to make sure that they understand. Now, test. Finish the sentence. Budweiser is the... Nike says just... Why do you know that? Okay. If I ask you this question, only 1 in 10 Americans get it right. My most valuable financial asset is my health. Only 1 in 10 will say that. 10 in 10 will say Budweiser. Okay? So what does that tell you? That tells you they have comprehension around what beer to order when they don't know anything else. I've never met anybody who makes a decision on what they don't know. I've only met people who make decisions on what they do know. And if they only know a little, they still make decisions on what they know. Is that true? Okay. So what we need to do is make sure people know what they need to know to make intelligent decisions that drive value. If we're going to actually be successful in the management of health and well-being in the marketplace, which includes our whole mission here as Christ-centered healthcare, we have to have leadership begin to understand that health is an asset to be managed. So I get in an elevator, the CEO gets in with me and says, David, good to see you. What are you here for today? Elevator speech, right? I'm here to drive the top line value of the business, drive increased profitability to the corporation. And then he says, David, that's great. How are you going to do that? Abundantly. He gets off the next floor. I say goodbye, and I'm going back to work with his people. Okay? That's a great message, right? I'm going to drive top line, right? So today we're going out to 360, fourth dimension, going to Wall Street and say, by the way, Goldman Sachs, you're going to value this business based upon the health of the population as well, right? That's in the metric. Oh yeah, that's right, because healthcare costs are going up, and if you have a healthier population that's engaged actively in the management of their care, and the people are really involved, and we see the medical trend going down to 2% when the rest of the marketplace is at 9%, you're right, that company's stock value more. Right? Oh, and there's also increasing bottom line because everybody else has been running at 9%, 10%, and we're running at 2%. That's a good message. Tim Von Dolan, would you agree as a businessman? Is that a good message? Absolutely. So we get down to plan, design, alignment. Every element of the compensation system has to be built around this process. Health promotion, we talk about that. The knowledge management continuum and policy and market engagement. So yeah, I have to go to Washington with Mike and do policy engagement because we're building the process. All right? Health savings accounts, most of you know about what those are. Health reimbursement arrangements come from 20 years of working in Washington. When I left Washington in 1983, that's what we began to do. Those elements exist because people, including ourselves, were engaged in that process. The axiom in healthcare I've mentioned to you. The healthcare is the most intimate and passionate form of reward for productivity. It tolerates only moderate change, by the way. So this has to be thoughtfully done over a period of time. And simplicity creates value. Okay. Next slide. Culture consumes strategy and tactics. Culture is dominant. Mark McClellan was at a meeting. Mark McClellan, prior administrator of CMS under George W., at a meeting in California. He says to all the CEOs and all the people that are there, culture dominates strategy and tactic. We have to be involved in engaging and managing where we go as a health culture. Whole thinking, critical. It's the patient-doctor relationship that we have to drive. Improved health, improved health care, improved health care security, rewarding well-being. Engagement, management, power, patient engagement, power, well-being, empowerment and well-being, top line, bottom line. I've covered those issues, I think, already. The issue is that when we get to the big picture, and I'll talk about this in a second or two, is that the two biggest issues we have in health care are medical literacy. Does anybody know what medical literacy costs in the United States is? The attributable cost of medical literacy? My brother Bob back there does. It's $300 to $500 billion a year, arguably. More conservatively, 200 to 300 billion. Okay? Obama's talking about 100 billion a year in healthcare reform. Comprehension. How do I care for myself? How do I engage with my doctor? What does this medical term mean? Is a 200 to 300 billion, arguably 300 to 500 billion dollar a year annual expense in the healthcare system. The second issue that we have is the underpayment of primary care. Unless you can increase dramatically the income to primary care, we do not have a solution in the healthcare system. All right? Comprehension continuum. These are all the elements that make up the comprehension continuum in the practice today. Knowledge management is absolutely critical. Not to do an advertisement, to show you woefully how inadequate the marketplace. There's only one company in the country that does knowledge management today in the employer-employee relationship. Only one. No other player is driving that process. Comprehension. Why should I take a health assessment? Why should I get involved with my doctor? Why should I take these courses around the importance of my health and well-being? Why should I begin to exercise? Why should I start to think that when I go to the store, I no longer buy Kellogg's cereal, I invest in my health? Why, when I go buy a car, do I not buy a car, but I invest in my health? If I buy too expensive a car and I can't afford the gym, then I'm misallocating my financial resources to invest in myself. Where does that all come from? Comprehension, right? And so you have to drive into this part of the equation, which is also, by the way, really critically faith-based healthcare, because Christ is at the center of real comprehension. So what is the structure that we want to get to today to talk about and try to get through the conversation? This is a little bit different talk than most of the talks that you've heard so far, right? This is a real nuts and bolts. What's going to happen? Right? Where are we? What's the dialogue in the marketplace? This week alone, I had 7 conversations with 7 CEOs of health systems. And every one said, when can we get together? How fast can we begin to talk about this? Okay? Accountable care organizations. Under the legislation, this is kind of one of those hidden bullets that is going to really impact the process. Now, some people are saying, look, if you repeal health care reform, amend health care reform, there's certain things that are out of the bag. They're not going to get back in the box. ACOs is one of those, accountable care organizations. There's a couple of pages in the 3,000 pages of health care law that are dedicated to ACOs. On Thursday, they came out with temporary regulations on ACOs. It'll take 20 years before final regulations, because that's what it always takes, 10 to 20 years for final regulations from temporary regulations, right? 500 pages of proposed regulations on ACOs. So understand, right, when we look at healthcare reform, the devil's in the detail. If you got 3,000 pages of detail, there's a lot of devil in there. Right? You don't have to be real smart to figure that out. Right? ACOs alone are 500 pages of regulation. That's what I got to read on Sunday. All right? So what's the conversation with the CEO? He says, hey, David, we're going to do this. All right? We're going to put an ACO in place. It increases our Medicare reimbursement. It's something financially we're going to have to do. And obviously it's going to drive improved quality of care because we're going to have all this information integration together. And we're going to empower our primary care docs to also integrate to our specialists and through the healthcare system services. That's all good. We're going to do that work. But then they say we're going to do it for our people first. Because if this improves the health and well-being of our population, clearly I have to also manage on the other side our bottom line, so why would I want to do that? And when I do that, I also get to model the way that we're going to do ACOs in the longer term. Right? And so the CEO is having this conversation, so to the docs, get on board now. Make sure you understand already that this conversation is taking place. Then I'm going to take it directly to the marketplace. Yeah, I'm going to use it to contract with Aetna and Cigna and all the insurance carriers too, because that's the marketplace as I understand it today. But are you also saying, David, that when I do this, I can actually take a product to my geographically serviced area that is a direct contract in the marketplace? No insurance company in between. Geez, that would be pretty good. I'd like that idea. Oh, and if I'm a faith-based institution, will that be a faith-based plan design in the direct marketplace that also supports our health system mission and drives new forms of revenue into our organization to sustain the ministry? Yes. Okay. So this ACO thing is really important, and it's not just a bunch of systems integration, but it's really a vision of where we're going in the marketplace. And it's driven around what? Patient engagement tool set, market reward, and the direct physician model. Okay? So what is it that Dr. Bodema, his partner actually is my doctor, Dr. Sconey, what does Dr. Sconey get paid for every day? He gets paid to care for people who are ill. It's an illness management process. All of the dollars involved in the system are to pay a doctor to provide care for a condition. Where's the income come from wellness? When a doctor is engaged in helping his patient think more beyond the condition management, he's not getting paid. He gets paid for 7-8 minutes intervals with each patient, and if he takes more than 7-8 minutes to do something else, he's taking away from another visit that he can charge for. That's the environment the physician works in today. Doctors, anyone disagree with that? No. It's the environment. Okay? So if we create a system around wellness, how do we pay the doctor? Right here. Patient engagement tool set. Knowledge management. How do we engage? How do we provide services in that process? All right? So a patient comes in. Today, the employee in America is dislocation. Employers and the insurance company continue to dislocate the doctor from the patient. All right? So today, the industry works in wellness is all an insurance company deliverable product. They go to the marketplace and they say, employer, you have 2,000 employees, and we'll come in with a health assessment tool to assess the health of each individual, produce a report, tell them about their lifestyle conditions, so forth and so on. Why doesn't the doctor do that? Let's deploy that service directly in the physician's office. Let's give the physician the ability to prescribe online learning knowledge. Let's give the physician the tool to have an electronic tracking tool that tracks the individual's efforts in nutrition and exercise and lays that out for the doctor so that they can actually be involved in the wellness management process and get paid for it. Okay? And so that's very important. These models say that you can double primary care income. Double. Maybe triple. Depends upon what the actual model is. But you engage the doctor now and not only saying, I'll take care of you when you're ill, I also want to be engaged with you while I manage your well-being. All right? And that's a very important thing because it also means that if the health system brings those engagement tools to the physician, the health system itself has a new form of revenue called wellness management. And we're talking about millions of dollars at the health system level. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars at the physician level. Okay? So this is significant. This is market reward, and it allows the primary care doctor to truly engage with their patient. When a CEO, and this is important for you all to understand because the CEOs are going to be engaged in all this discussion. You just need to understand the dialogue, right? They've got to work on information integration. So you docs that are out there that have your EMRs, right? You got to, you're on a separate EMR. You're not on, Epic. You're not on Cerner. You're on an Allscripts application or some other application that's out there. Trinity has been working on this specifically to take, tens, if not hundreds of EMRs and integrate that into the systems application you all have been working on. We actually know the people who are doing that work. All right? But this is going on, over and over again at all of the systems around. The clinical care, that's you docs and you hospital. I mean, us guys in the marketplace, we're not going to tell you how to do this. Right? But we do want to make sure the systems enable you to have flexibility here to drive the value and to drive the metrics that you want to manage to. But these are the pieces that the health system does not have, the doctors do not have today. And we're working very hard in the marketplace to do that. All right? So how do we engage the individual actively in the management of their care? And how do we create that presence in the marketplace on a day-to-day, 360 days a year basis? For the employer, it begins here. A strategic engagement management process. All right? And you all might be saying, well, David, how does this affect me? People like me are sitting down with the senior people in the health system or sitting down with an employer of 5,000 employees and designing this process today that's going to affect everything you do. Here's the progression. Employees have a deductible and coinsurance of this today. 5 years later, they'll be here. One health system out on the East Coast sits down and says, okay, I get it. I'm here today, and I have a rich medical plan that only makes my employees, the majority of my employees, sicker. And as I move over here, I reach a benefit plan that engages my employees in a multidimensional way, including cost, but they become healthier, and I save $40 million a year. Can I take some of that $40 million and invest it in even more improved health and well-being? Would that be a reasonable thing for me to do? Because I also have to, if I'm a health system employer, create a proposition in the marketplace that is better than everybody else's. Does that make sense for me to do that? Absolutely. The key to this process isn't the deductible or coinsurance. It isn't anything other than focusing on what people know. If I can get everyone in a company, the employees, to say this, my most valuable financial asset is, well, my health, of course. You've changed the culture. Now, do you engage the people in the health promotion process? Do you create competitive rewards? Hey, I'm on a team, we're doing jogging, we're doing running. Oh no, we're competing with those people over there for how many pounds we lose. I'm competing for the relationship I actually have with my doctor. These are the things I'm doing with my doctor. Are you doing those things? No, we talk about sports and other things today. But in the health age, people become very focused on their health. When they go into the store, they say, no, this is the healthy aisle. This is all these other things. Health becomes what? Popular. Health becomes something I want. Health becomes something we talk about. We just took the same course. Did you see it when the guy lifted the box up? He held his back each time and said, ah! And I got up to a higher level on the interactive game than you got to. Right? I mean, that's what this knowledge management process is about. And then how do you build rewards? And actually driving down to actually prescribing care at a physician level. I'm going to go past a couple of slides, and just to give you a sense of this, and wrap up. The attachment points at the physician level, because we have docs here, right? So patient engagement empowerment, we've talked about that. The employer culture, comprehension, and the continuum tool set. It's not just taking courses, it's the interaction of the health assessment, the questions you ask, the report that gets produced, the fact that you, the doctor, use it in consultation with your physician, the fact that you then prescribe knowledge management and tracking management and lifestyle management and disease management, and you do those services rather than the insurance company, and you get paid for it. You get engaged with your patient. Your patient says, John Bonham is my doctor. I'm going to John Bonham. Who do you go to? Right? Kind of a stockbroker issue. These are the tools: health assessment, clinical inputs, right? You got to have screening. You have to have the consultation, the goal setting, and the prescription. You have to have the tool for knowledge management. You have to have the tool for tracking. You want an integrated experience so I can pull in all other applications, including, you can click directly to Blue Cross Blue Shield or Cigna, whoever you have, and get to the things that we want you to get to. Create some hierarchy in the application. Wellness management and disease management. Lifestyle management. We should have an LM there too. What's the model? For the health system, we want to also create revenue for everybody, right? Because that's what you do in commerce. So on the health system, the equation looks something like this on the tool set. The tool set to the health system is a 6x cost. 1x to the tools, 1x to the system, 4x to the physicians. All right? If you want to plug in $25 for X, go ahead and do that. You want to think about it. But to the general population, not the employees of the health system, which the health systems helped you to get application to the system, is the general patient application. And you see that's 18x. So 2x to the tools, 2x to the system, 14x to the physician. You have 4,000 patients, 1,200 you have 4,000 files, 1,200 patients as you would define them today, 2,800 files that I don't have the person coming to see me. If 1,000 of those patients are at 18x, and you get to keep 14x, you do the math. You're all doctors. Okay? Figure it out. So when a CEO of a health system or a physician's group directly can begin to do that, that changes the paradigm. So what do these tools look like? And again, these are the tools that we have. But the important thing is that we're driving this also into a Christ-centered way. Right? So when we actually develop a Christ-centered plan in the marketplace, some of these messages will change. But this has all been built based upon adult learning and how do we actually drive comprehension. So there's a course introduction, there's principles in depth, and oh, by the way, at every turn, the course says in the audio, your health is your most valuable asset. 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 It's your most valuable financial asset. What does the employer begin to do? Hey, this is so impactful on our people as they take these courses. They start to talk, can we put 401k courses like this? Can we put courses on how to buy a house like this, or how to shop for food like this? This is a learning platform, and I'd say to Sister, we can put all the courses you want on teaching about fertility and the gift of our sexuality. We put them all on here. All right? This is just a learning process that engages populations of people. All right? We could put a course on John Center in Virginia, and when somebody comes in and says, this is how we do things and why. Interactive learning, I can go at it at my pace, and I can go from, zone 1 to zone course level 2 and course level 3, and when I get to course level 3, I get to wear a pink band. Okay? When I'm wearing a pink band in the community, why do you got that pink band? Well, we go over to see John. Right? We now know something. Right? Engagement. Real life videos, need to know, action steps, things you can do, the closer look. These are all adult learning, Northwestern, Michigan, University of Michigan, adult learning professors have helped us construct all of this. This is a thing where you actually get to the interactive games, and you put in your diet, and the guy gets skinnier or fatter, and everybody kind of plays with that. I mean, these are the kinds of things that you do to engage people today, right? And where are the young people today? Right? The young people are all over the internet. And if we're going to teach young people anything, we've got to put it in their world. This is an example of actually a tracking tool that we built for the Hopkins Health System out in Baltimore. Insurance industry, but tracks all these different elements just to give you a feel for this and not to beat it up too much. Here's an integrated portal, okay, where we're bringing a lot of pieces into play to the employee when they see this view, right? And so, again, we're talking about employees, but there are also individuals out there in the marketplace. There's no reason we can't do this for a diocese that says, if you have individual health care needs, all right, and you can get some individual coverage this way, we'll create an application that is supportive of this program that's offered to you as a person in the church. Okay? So with that, I'm getting the high sign that I talked too long. But this is the end of the talk. So I hope that's helpful, and the point that I want to wrap up with is this. Everybody here is really, really important to Christ-centered healthcare. We all come from different experiences. We all can bring different elements to a solution in the market. But we have to bring it to the market. We have to manifest what we do in commerce, the daily transaction of life. And how we do that is all a conversation that needs to continue, right? So the question really begins in what we're doing with the Right of Conscience Working Group. Mike, where's Mike? Okay? We have a Google group, right, Marie? We have a Google group, and Marie sends out something, everybody sees it in the group. Should we form a Google group here about what's going on and saying, Tim wants to get something out and says, hey, this is what we're doing here. We all want the Christus Medicus, people engaged in Christus Medicus to know that, right? We need to think about where we keep moving. With the group that we had in Group 1 workshop yesterday, we're going to get together for 4 hours some date after Easter to put together a plan for Michigan. What can we do to help drive Christ-centered healthcare in Michigan? Well, there's a multi-dimensional conversation. There's the diocese, 8 dioceses. There's the Michigan Catholic Conference. There's the legislation. There's employer health plans. There's the health systems and what are they doing in ACOs. It's a 360-degree, 4-dimensional issue. There's Bishop Vasha. What's he going to say the next time he sees Archbishop Vigneron? Hey, that Christus Medicus meeting was great. You're so blessed, Archbishop, to have Christus Medicus and Mike O'Day actually in the Diocese of Detroit. And what they're trying to do in the state of Michigan for you all. What a fantastic thing. And then Bishop Vasha goes over and talks to his brother bishops in California and says, boy, I was out in Detroit, and you should see what Archbishop Vigneron has going on out there. He's amazing, right, what he's got going on out there. Does it happen any differently than that, really? It doesn't, right? You go to Tim Van Dolen and you say, hey, listen, do I have another guy or two in Michigan that would like to basically franchise the Tim Van Dolen model or John's model in Michigan, in Birmingham, Michigan, or Troy, Michigan? That's how it works. So we need to break. I'm getting the hook 3 times, but I can't get off the podium once I get there. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, David. Before you go off for break, Mike O'Day has just one announcement for you, and then we'll reconvene at 10 after 10 for our panel discussion.